Indiana Jones. Always knew someday you'd come walking back through my door.
You've got to own the Blu-ray editions of the Indiana Jones movies because they are the best. These are classic films. They're textbooks in filmmaking, and I'd like to think textbooks in effects work also. The effects for the indie films took a second place to the story and the characters. Harrison Ford, the sets, the locations, the plot, all that stuff was in the forefront. And our effects, in any way, they could not show up as being flashy. They had to just fit right within that. The original 3 films that we did had all the same kind of toolkit. We would invent little things here and there. For the second film, we had the little small Nikon camera that we used to shoot the mine chase because it was so tiny we could make the set smaller. It saved a lot of money to do it. That was the main reason we did that. And by the time we got to the final 4th film, though, which had been many, many years later, things were done mostly with computer graphics. So that was sort of the big leap in effects between the 3rd film and the 4th film. And that gave Steven a lot more flexibility for the cameras that he wanted to do, because before we would be limited to certain camera angles. But doing in computer, he could come up with any design he wanted for a shot, any actions he wanted, any computer graphics he sort of wanted. And then it's up to us to make sure that that stuff looks as real as it can. And that's the really hard part, because, you know, that's always been a struggle and still is a struggle in making things look totally real. Effects often are there to showcase themselves and be sort of a big moment. I think that's happened now also. You see more of that in films now. But when the original ones were made, that was not the way it was. It was, and the idea being that they had for that was, you're visiting sort of like you're going through a normal day with Indiana Jones, where some incredible thing just happens, but it's on to another incredible thing happens, and another incredible danger thing happens. We didn't want the effects to just show off themselves, because this is like just secondary normal stuff that would happen to Indiana Jones. And that was a new thing for us to have to do effects like that, which meant they had to work very fast. They didn't, the cuts don't last very long. Each cut usually only tells one idea, and I used to call it one thought, one shot, so you don't put too much stuff into a shot. And the trick was finding out exactly what Steven wanted for that one shot and just make sure that was clear.
The sound people's job in these films is to create illusions, that things that are fantastic, things that are just made-up movie effects. Sound people's job is to make those things credible. The boulder in Raiders of the Lost Ark was one of the biggest challenges of the first film. We actually came out to Skywalker Ranch, and we were in a little Honda Civic station wagon on a dirt road back on the ranch on a steep hill. I just hung out the back of the car with a microphone and recorded the tires rolling, and that became the boulder. When you watch and listen to these films on the Blu-ray, it's really a unique sonic experience. The weapons and the face punches are strong and visceral. It's a treat, and I think that you can get quite a bit of entertainment value out of the experience on the Blu-ray. I'd felt for years that the original recordings that were done back in 1981, the original masters on Raiders of the Lost Ark, were possibly higher quality than what we were getting on the current release of the film, theatrically as well as on home video. I'd actually gone to a screening of the film at the Academy, and I hadn't heard it in many years, and I was a little disappointed by what I heard, and I thought, well, maybe I want to look into this. We actually set up a test. I realized that the original 4-track mix of Raiders, the original, it was on the recorder, that it was the master recording, was still in the vaults, and it was in good shape, and it was not used to master new material. All the products of Indiana Jones were coming off of subsequent copies, many of them analog copies. They were a couple generations down. And so I organized a screening where we put up this original master, and listened to it. I actually invited some real geeks to that screening, people that knew these films by heart, knew it better than I did, fans, just to get their reaction. And they were all impressed with that the quality of this original recording was better. It was things were sharper and there was less distortion and it was cleaner and all of that. So I was encouraged that we should go back to this original master. A huge emphasis is always placed on going out, get out of the studio, take your tape recorder, and find the original sounds out there in the world around us. Because our job in these films is to create illusions, that things that are fantastic, things that are just made up movie effects, special effects, the sound people's job is to make those things credible, that they really exist. And we found that bringing in sounds from the outside world, organic sounds, is always a way to success because people recognize them as being real, and therefore it gives it credibility. And also, the fact is that sounds in the outside world can be more expressive. We don't sit in the studio generating things in a synthesizer. Unlike many of the visual arts today, in which the objects are designed completely from within the computer and grow outwardly, we're still leaving the studio every day and trying to find things around us and bring them into the movie. It's really a sonic experience without too many rivals, because the sounds, the events in the movie are portrayed with highly articulated sound. It's asking for energetic and very atmospheric things. You tell the story, a great deal of the credibility is a result of the sound. The ark has its humming and it seems alive, and that's because of the sound associated with it. And the weapons and the face punches are strong and visceral because we went to a lot of trouble to make them exaggerated but yet real in the world of movies. And so it's a treat, and I think that you can turn off the bulb and just listen. And I think get quite a bit of entertainment value out of the experience on the Blu-ray. The Ark of the Covenant, a sacred object, of course. I wanted to be careful with it. Nonetheless, the lid of the Ark, when I was experimenting with different sounds, it turned out that the lid on my toilet bowl was perfect for the Ark. I guess I was moving it to make some adjustment, scraping it and opening it and closing it. That had that nice ceramic kind of gloop, sound. I don't know. It was great. We took that, and that's used for the Ark. I hate to say that. It sounds wrong, but it worked perfectly. The Indiana Jones collection is really a must-own because, first of all, they're wonderful adventure movies. They're decent. They have good values. They have hopeful endings and charismatic characters, so they're highly entertaining. And secondly, they are a visual treat because they're so well shot and edited and designed. And of course, the sound is the best part of it.